SABC Digital News joins me now in studio for our weekly look at social media topics. Neo, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Natasha.
So we've got quite a lot to get through today, but let's start with the big one, the Hawks investigation of the finance minister. How's that been on social media?
It's been a very big topic on social media. When we looked at the stats, over 1.8 million impressions on Twitter alone. And it's one topic that has been trending for the past 2 days. I hope they can show you the graphic. It reached over 1.5 million accounts on Twitter alone, and then there's a huge gap between 500. There's a huge gap between 500 and 800 impressions that it had. So it's been a big topic. But we had people on social media saying that they don't understand why the finance minister is being questioned by the Hawks. Some people are saying that he needs to be left alone, and we had the deputy president saying it's a political motivated inquiry. So people really do not understand the gist of what's happening with this inquiry by the Hawks.
And I think people's main concern is the reaction on the markets and what it's doing to the economy.
Yes, we saw the rand actually falling during the week, but when certain statements came out just that it gained like 5% or a small number, but still the markets are suffering from what's happening with this inquiry.
Another big trending topic this week has been the coalition governments that have been coming into place since the local elections. We had the DA taking the city of Johannesburg and the ANC taking Ekurhuleni. And those were two council meetings that we covered this week, and both of them getting a lot of reaction.
They got a lot of traffic even on our YouTube channel. When we looked at what's happening with the Joburg specifically, it had over 11,000 people who were watching it, and they spent like 22 minutes on YouTube. That's a very long time for somebody to spend that much money on their data. But looking at the graphics, it trended in more countries than expected. It was South Africa, it was some parts of Slovakia, it was some parts of Australia, Argentina, and America, and like the narrative changed from one country to the next, but mostly the traffic came from from South Africa. Or when we're looking at the number, it had over 2.4 million impressions on Twitter. So it was a topic that people really engaged in, but also other hashtags weighed in, like people were tweeting with EFF sold our votes, and there were other people saying ANC sold our land. So those two topics were also contributing to the to the whole Joburg mayoral topic that was happening on Twitter.
Interesting to see those countries that it was trending in, and you say the narrative changed from country to country. How did it change?
Like when you look at Slovakia, the tweets were more pro-EFF, which is very interesting. They were talking about EFF, and you would wonder, why would a European country be invested in what's happening in South Africa and in America? And also when you looked at London, the UK, it was more of how the economy is going to survive this, as you were talking about the economy before. Like, it shows that the international audience is looking at what is happening here at home.
Very, very interesting. And another topic to look at, the funeral service yesterday of Makenkensi Stofile, and what came out of that. I mean, there was such a huge reaction to the conversation that emanated from the funeral service.
It was such a big conversation on Twitter. It actually trended for 2 days. Even this morning it was trending on social media. But one person who really pulled attention or pulled traffic for this was, of course, Sipho Bijana, who had some strong words for the ANC. And when we looked at the impressions that happened on Twitter, out of 1,700 tweets, it generated over 10 million impressions. So people are really talking about what is happening. And there were also memes that were coming out of the situation. But
as they always are.
As they always are, but it was a big topic on social media. And if you look at the stats, 79% of what Bijani said were retweets, and original tweets was only 14%. But it shows how much people are invested in talking about what's happening in our country.
Well, I was just going to say that it's so interesting to see that on Twitter and social media, people are really coming to grips with the politics of the country and really being engaged in it. And on that, one of the other trending topics that I saw this week was the likelihood that Busisiwe Mkhwebane, Advocate Mkhwebane, is the favorable candidate to replace Thuli Madonsela.
We had a number of people on social media who were very pro it, because it's another woman getting into a position of power, even though there were reports of the DA not in favor of her. But a lot of people, from the tweets I read online, people are pro the future public protector. It reached over 1.9 million impressions on Twitter. Accounts is like 1.7 accounts on Twitter. So it was a big topic that people were really engaging with.
And finally, the Rio Olympics, we still are tweeting about that as our athletes have returned with their haul of medals, including 2 golds. I mean, people are just fully behind our athletes.
Yeah, people are fully behind our athletes. As you know, during the Olympics, there was a scandal about, there was a hashtag that went out about hands off Caster. That hashtag alone generated so much traffic on social media. And when we look at the map itself, if you can look on the screen, it's trending also in so many countries. And what was interesting, the topics that were coming from Argentina, people were actually bashing the Americans, saying, why are they treating Caster so badly, and all about her sexuality and stuff like that. But people were backing her on social media, and it shows how the importance of social media, especially when it comes to supporting our athletes who are overseas.
Neo, thank you very much for this week's look at what's been happening on social media. Neo McClung from our SABC Digital News team. Thanks very much.
Thank you.